Hey, True Believers. Chris Mack coming at you today with New Mutants, issue 17. We went over 16 about 2 years ago, something like that. Like I said, I get a backlog, I get kicked on something else, and I forget what we're doing, and then I was like, oh yeah, we were going over this. So, 2 years later, here's issue 17. To kind of bring you up to speed, Doug Ramsey at this point had been recruited to Emma Frost's Massachusetts school, which of course was the Hellion school, which she uses to groom to try to bring the kids into the Hellfire Club as they get older. Kitty is friends with Doug Locke, or he's not Doug Locke at this point, but Doug Ramsey. She goes to the academy to try to save him. She gets screwed, basically becomes a prisoner, and because the beef between her and Emma from way back in, what was it, Uncanny X-Men 129? Somewhere in the 120s, somewhere like that. Anyway, the X-Men are gone. They are on War World because of Secret Wars. And so it's up to the New Mutants to try to save her, which kind of gets them in the same precarious situation, and they get captured as well. And this book's kind of the aftermath of that. I believe the print date on this was July 1984. The people working on this book is Chris Claremont writer, Sal Buscema, Tom Mandrake, Kim DeMilder, I think that's how you pronounce that, art, Tom Orzanowski doing letters, Glynis Wayne colors, and Nasanti was the editor, and Jim Shooter was editor-in-chief, and of course the New Mutants were created by Chris Claremont and Bob McLeod. All-star cast on this book, and I love how this is called Getaway. And what happens is the Hellions are kind of fighting amongst each other because they really got their butts relatively handed to them against the New Mutants until they were captured. And this is Jetstream, and of course Empath, and God, I hate Empath. He reminds me of, what's that little shit's name from Game of Thrones? Joffrey Lannister, because he just thinks his shit don't stink. He's like, Empath, what were you playing at during our battle with the New Mutants? Your carelessness and stupidity very nearly got me killed. And because Empath, and for those of you that may not be very aware of Empath from back in the day, go check out, I think it was Zeb Wells that did it, the new Krakoan book called Hellions. He runs a number on that team. But anyway, Jetstream's mad that Empath kind of decided to not help the team. And then of course this is Thunderbird, who would eventually become Warpath. He is the brother of the original Thunderbird that died in New Mutants, what was it? Uncanny X-Men 95, I think it was 95, yeah. Anyway, back to it. Jetstream says, besides, what else was I to do since you had proven yourself so obviously incapable of coping without your, and the fight starts. And of course, Emplay just says, I have warned you before, dog. Never lay hands on a De La Rocha. And you just see how Jetstream immediately just stops. You do not wish to hurt me, Jetstream. I am your friend. Apologize for striking me. I'm sorry. And look at the way the facial expressions here just move. It's like, splendid. Now beg my forgiveness. But before that can happen, enter Emma. And God, Sal Buscema's pencils with the inking on here. I mean, look at this. The way that Enna, I'm going to start calling her Enna Most. Emma Frost walks in, just draped in shadows to show what kind of threat she was and still is, but she was more so back in the day because she was opposing the X-Men instead of banging Scott like she is now. But she goes, good morning, children. I see in your thoughts and from your actions that you're all quite recovered from last night's activities. Now listen to Empath talking to Jetstream. He goes, all Ramen, I could have easily make you loathe yourself so deeply you would instantly commit suicide. Assault me again, or even cross me. And I like how Emma just kind of stops. She goes, you will regret it. Empath, I said enough. And even though he pretends to kind of fall in line with Emma, she goes, arrogant pup. He must know I'm reading his thoughts, yet he isn't afraid. Confident that his empathic powers shield his innocent secrets from my mind. He's challenging me to prove him wrong. His ambitions and power make him dangerous, but they also make him the perfect candidate for the Hellfire Club, provided he doesn't prompt me to kill him first. you can just feel the tension and kind of the schism in terms of ideologies of the team, where, Empath's kind of more on his own. You can kind of see that Jetstream wants, Jetstream. I get that confused with the Transformers. I get Jetfire. Best Jetstream. He kind of wants to be a team player. Thunderbird kind of, in a sense, has a level head because you're pardon, ma'am, but I don't much like the idea of fighting kids. I want the X-Men. They owe me for my brother's life. And so he's a little blinded by that, and Emma's taking advantage of it. She can kind of see that she just does not have full control of her students like Xavier does, and that's because she's raising them to be villains instead of trying to make them their own deal. So here we kind of catch up from last issue. The New Mutants are put in a room where their powers are basically moot. Kitty's with them. And there's a moment where they're just kind of like, are you wanting to be one of them, Kitty? And she doesn't really know what to believe with herself because Emma kind of screwed with her head. Now, while all this is happening, the two that actually got away was Illyana and Danny, which leads us into, what's that place called? Limbo. Illyana's down for the count, and Danny just doesn't know what to do because she's like, ugh, I've never seen anything so awful. Not even my demon bear in my worst nightmares. But these creatures are real. I caught the first one by surprise. I've lost that edge with his pals. Maybe I can use my powers to scare them away. Which she summons a picture of Sim, who, speak of the devil, literally and figuratively, comes about and saves her and Illyana. And she's like, Illyana, you're awake. I'm even alive, albeit somewhat the worst for wear. And she's talking about how Sim brought us here. And where is it? Hold on a second. Right here, Sim says, you're the boss, cutie. She goes, whatever I shift to my light travels has to go travel through Limbo. Sim, where are our clothes? And Sim says, well, you're the Magnus, eh? You rule Limbo. Your friend acted as your champion. Did a pretty fair job, too. Sim decided it was only fitting you both looked the part. And this is where Danny's like, Magus, Illyana told us she was a sorceress, but none of us imagined she was so powerful. So Danny didn't even realize that she, at this point, rules Limbo, or the degree of how powerful she is. So much so that when they return, they go all the way to the future. And in the future, she sees that all the New Mutants are friends and teammates alongside the Hellions. And it's kind of an interesting little back and forth in terms of how Illyana's powers work, like how can they overshoot time, how can she focus on a specific point in time, etc., so forth. But finally, they're able to at least get to some point in their where they need to be, try to save the team, but the Hellions are aware of their return. And what Jetstream decides is, where does he say it? Here. Because Sam's like, I'll fight you to get out of here. And Jetstream, again, like I said, he's a little cocksure of himself, but he wants to be a leader. So he's stern, like Scott. He goes, we joined the Hellions by choice. Some of us don't like the idea of you being forced. Also, our initial meeting ended inconclusively. We want to see how good you truly are and how well we stand up against you. And so basically what the end of the book boils down to is two analogs from both teams fight against each other. If the New Mutants win, they leave, no problem. If the Hellions win, then the New Mutants have to stop and join into story. And the battle is awesome, especially in this faux danger room that it was jacked from Xavier's blueprints. And you can see where Jetstream is powerful and a little more mature than Sam. Because if you remember, if you go back and read these, Sam, even though he's strong, powerful, he doesn't know the full extent of his powers. None of the New Mutants do. That's why Sam could never turn on a dime until way later down the road. And it almost cost him his chance against Jetstream. But I don't want to give away the battle. I want you guys to read this. What gets interesting at the end is when Emma returns with Sebastian Shaw, and everyone finally sees the extent of Shaw's powers, especially against someone like Roberto. And this is also the first cameo appearance of the Demon Bear that leads up to the next issue. Now, I don't want to give away this whole book. It's, again, other than the first cameo appearance of the Demon Bear, this isn't one of those like, oh my God, the big first reveal of this or the next big crossover, blah, blah. It's none of that. It's just a good story with a lot of very great human interest points, especially against the two leaders of the New Mutants, especially when Jetstream poses the idea of the duel. Everyone looks to Danny, and there's a point where she goes, she basically says, I'm just a kid, and everyone's looking to me as this leader. What do I do? But she kind of realizes that there's no real way around it. They're outgunned, they're in that inhibitor room, and she just says, we agree. And because her and Sam co-team, and Sam's a little bit older, that's why he becomes the analog with his blasting powers so he can't get hurt. Which I would have maybe chose Sunspot, but the problem with Sunspot is even though he's powerful, he's like Jetstream, a little too cocky and tends to let his anger cloud his judgment, which we see in this book. So y'all, if you've enjoyed New Mutants number 17, beautiful artwork by Sal Buscema, great colors, awesome storytelling. Please, first and foremost, support your local comic shop and grab a copy or wherever it is you like to grab your books and your action figures. If you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate if you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little New Mutant bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with y'all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.